Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Shah. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhayeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyade Deshatarine. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurun dinataranam paramananda madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. So we welcome with this quiz. You can see on your screens. This is based on the last session. So we want you to take out your time from other things and focus on that and mark the correct answers. Hare Hare. So question number 1, the determination of one in the mode of goodness is unbreakable, sustained by yoga practice.
Question number 2, one whose determination is motivated by fruitive result is the one in mode of passion, and option B is the right answer.
Question 3, poison in the beginning and nectar at the end is the happiness of one in the mode of passion, and this answer is wrong because poison in the beginning and nectar at the end is for goodness, not for passion.
Next question, tolerance, wisdom, austerity are the qualities of a Brahmana. Option C is the right answer.
Natural quality of leadership is found in a Brahmana. False, that is Kshatriya quality.
Next, predominance of mode of ignorance with passion as secondary mode is found in, and the correct answer is option B or Shudra.
Generosity and resourcefulness are the qualities of a Vaishya, and the correct answer is false because these are the qualities of a Kshatriya.
So a lot of revision is required. One can always perform others' duty if it can be performed perfectly. This again is false because Krishna says, better do your duty imperfectly rather doing another's duty perfectly.
And the last question, one is not affected by sinful reaction even one does his duty imperfectly.
So option B is the right answer.
So we will proceed with the session. We have completed till verse number 48, and here we are getting into the next section of confidential knowledge. So Krishna has already explained about worshiping the Lord through our work. The Karma Yoga we have discussed. We have also discussed the modes. And now Krishna will describe the further steps on the yoga ladder. So the Jnana Yoga. So in this section, Krishna will begin with reaction-free work through Jnana Yoga, and then gradually he'll talk about Brahma realization, and then finally the pure devotional service. So 3 steps we would be seeing in this section, as we can see on this slide. So verse number 49, it details about the reaction-free work through Jnana Yoga. So the person here would be actually performing Jnana Yoga, and he will not be accumulating reaction for his work. Verse 50 to 53 talks about Brahma realization platform, and 54-55 about pure devotional service. Asakta buddhi sarvatra jitatma vigata spriyaha naishkarmya siddhim paramam sanyasena adhigacchati.
One who is self-controlled and unattached and who disregards all material enjoyment can obtain by practice of renunciation the highest perfect stage of freedom from reaction. So Krishna is explaining here, as Sugiti was explaining, that the Karma Yoga section has been concluded, and now the Jnana Yoga section is starting. That's why there is a discussion of practice of renunciation. Asakta buddhi sarvatra jitatma vigata spraha. So what is happening is that this person is self-controlled, he is unattached, and he disregards all material enjoyment. So this is the situation. If a Jnana Yogi does, then he can gradually he can reach the highest perfection of freedom from reaction. So which means whatever action he does, he will not receive reaction if he is situated in this situation, which means his senses are self-controlled, he is unattached to the objects of sense gratification, and who disregards all material enjoyment. So he is not looking to enjoy anything in this material world. So of course this is based on the realization that I am not this body, I am spirit, soul. And for devotee this actually becomes very, very easy. This is much easier for devotee to practice. Why? One thing, the devotee understands that I am part and parcel of the Lord, and therefore whatever is there in this material world, or whatever action I'm doing and whatever result I'm getting, so I go for a job and I get a salary. So whatever results I'm getting from my actions, I know that that also belongs to the Supreme Lord, because I myself am a part and parcel of the Lord. So for example, the hand, till the time this hand acts for the benefit of the body, then this hand is useful and this hand is healthy. The moment this hand begins to act independently of the body, then it has no use. So independent means it has to be cut off, and if it cut off, then it rots. So naturally, a person is detached from all the results that he obtains from his actions, whether it is salary or a great amount of wealth, or whatever the result. And sometimes when a devotee, he is doing business or he's doing a job, and or if he's a student, he's putting in his sincere effort in that activity also. Sometimes the results are good, and sometimes the results are bad. Sometimes there is an unexpected turn of questions, or there are topics which I didn't cover and they came, or sometimes there's a change of government policies and the business is really bad. Sometimes the company goes into what is it called? The layoffs, and the job is lost. So in either case, because this devotee understands that, I'm part and parcel of the Lord, everything is the energy and the arrangement of the Lord. So he's always satisfied, and he's not really looking for any other pleasure other than in the service of the Lord. So for a devotee, therefore, it becomes very, very easy to be free from this last point which is mentioned here, that the highest perfection stage of freedom from reaction. So for such a devotee, there is no reaction to his actions. So perfection stage of renunciation, one whose intelligence is detached from material objects. The moment I see that everything is composed of Lord's energy, so when I see another person and I understand that his body is made up of Lord's material energy, and inside that body is spirit soul, and there is the Supreme Lord also residing in that. So then we don't look at objects, oh, I want to enjoy, I want to enjoy this person's company, or I want to enjoy that object. So that naturally, so the intelligence is detached from material objects. Asakta buddhi sarvatra, mind is controlled. The senses just don't go, because this devotee engages the senses in Lord's service and without material desires, because the devotee understands that if I try to enjoy independently of the Lord, that has been the cause of my repeated birth, death, old age and disease. So it's a very bad deal, and I don't want to enter that deal again. So that's how the devotee is actually a very, very intelligent person.
Also, we see here, like as we were discussing, that this is specifically, so Prabhupada was explaining about the devotees and how does this verse naturally come to them. But here actually Krishna is talking about the Gyanis. So they have renounced and they progress. So even among the Gyani, there are two categories. So one is the one who actually, they do not have the doership mentality, and that is why they are not attached to the result of the work. So they are doing their work, but they are not attached to the result. And an advanced stage is that when the sannyasi, he perfects his sadhana over time, and then he reaches at the stage where he gives up the work itself. So the first level is that I do the work and I'm not attached to the result. And the second step is that I do not do any mundane material work. So that is how he gradually advances in his level and he reaches the perfectional stage. Real renunciation means that one should always think himself part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and therefore think that he has no right to enjoy the results of his work. So this, my dear devotees, is the real renunciation. When I understand that everything I have to do is for Krishna, nothing for me. So no attachment to the result.
So this becomes so beautiful. If I cook some very nice bhoga for the Lord, right from the beginning, when I'm arranging the ingredients to the recipe, I'm constantly thinking that I'll make this nice halwa and Lord will be so blissful and the devotees will be so blissful, and that's the consciousness I cook, and I offer the Lord with a tulsi leaf, all the while thinking of Lord's pleasure. And at the end, when the bhoga is offered and then we get prasadam, and then the devotee honors that prasadam in great gratitude. So that's how the devotee is in complete mood of renunciation. Siddhim prapto yatha brahma tathapnoti nibodha me Samasenaiva kaunteya nishtha jnanasya ya para.
O son of Kunti, learn from me how one who has achieved this perfection can attain to the supreme perfectional stage Brahma, the stage of highest knowledge, by acting in a way I shall now summarize. So Krishna is telling that once a person comes to this level, and then it becomes very easy for him to progress further and attain the Brahma realization state. So he's telling that now I am going to detail that. So in the next following verse, Krishna is going to talk about that.
Buddhaya vishuddhaya yukto dhrityatmanam niyamya cha shabdadin vishayam tyaktva ragadeveshau vyudasya cha. We'll recite again. Buddhaya vishuddhaya yukto dhrityatmanam niyamya cha Shabdadin vishayam tyaktva ragadeveshau vyudasya cha. Being purified by his intelligence, buddhya vishuddhya, by being purified by his intelligence, controlling the mind with determination, dhrityatmanam niyamam, giving up objects of sense gratification, being freed from attachment and hatred, raga, dvesha. So here we see that Krishna is saying that he will explain that how one achieves Brahman. So here from the verse 51, 52, 53 we see that how this sannyasi, as being discussed in Gyan Yoga, he realizes Atma. I am not this body, I am Atma. So how does he do that? 51, 52, 53, and then in 54 he realizes the Supreme Lord himself. And that's how he becomes successful. So what are the qualities here? That his intelligence is purified. Let's look at the next slide here. So he has got this knowledge that I am not this body, and he understands how this whole material universe is created, and then he has this external body which is made up of the material elements. So with that knowledge, his intelligence becomes, what happens to his intelligence? His intelligence becomes purified, vishuddhya. So his intelligence becomes purified with this knowledge. Then his mind also comes under his control, because he understands that this contamination that I have got into, this body is actually a contamination. I'm this, not this body, I'm spirit soul. So gaining an external body made of material elements is a contamination. So his intelligence gets purified, his mind is not attached to material objects. The mind is purified, it is controlled, and with that great determination he controls the mind. Mind is considered as the sixth sense, the king of the senses, because all of the senses, as you will see, the next step of restraining senses, here we have the knowledge gathering senses, like the nose, the eyes, the ears. So above all these knowledge gathering senses is the mind. So this person, based on purified intelligence, purified the mind, and with determination he controls the mind. So this mind, which is the king of the senses, is not bothered about what is the input coming from these knowledge gathering senses. So that's how he is able to control the mind and control the senses. Natural result is also freedom from attachment and hatred. So this is something which he develops over a period of time, that he becomes free from attachment and hatred. So it's very simple. When my mind and senses is withdrawn from sense objects, why do I love something? Because it gives me pleasure. Why do I hate something? Because it may give me some pain. So, but when I'm detaching myself from the sense objects, then naturally I become free from the hatred and attachment. So such a person prefers to live in a secluded place, and that is what is discussed in this particular verse.
Vivikta sevi laghavashi yata vakaya manasaha dhyana yoga paro nityam vairagyam samupashritaha. One who lives in a secluded place, who eats little, who controls his body, mind and power of speech, who's always in trance. So here is a description of such a person. So he is performing this dhyan yoga, and gradually, because he has renounced things, he has become free from the bodily material attachments. He has renounced, and in that way he prefers to stay in a secluded place. He eats very little. Why he eats very little? Because if we eat a lot of food, then our senses automatically get agitated. The senses get strength to act, to run in various directions. So to control the senses, it is helpful to eat less food. So he eats less, and he controls that is how he controls his body, his mind, and his power of speech. So this is how, when everything is controlled, then he gradually attains the trance. So this is how he is situated in trance. So secluded place, eats little, complete control over body, mind, and speech, and he is always in trance. So such a person, actually, he engages his body, mind, speech towards his object of meditation. So everything, the senses are under control, the mind is under control, and with the body, with the mind, with the speech, he's only thinking about one thing. His body postures is also favorable, and he speaks or he recites those mantras also. So basically all these things lead to him towards his object of meditation, and that is how their mind is absorbed in thinking about the Lord.
Ahankaram balam darpam kamam krodam parigraham vimuchya nirmama shanto Brahma-bhuyaya kalpate. And the list is not over. Who's detached, free from false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and acceptance of material things, free from false proprietorship, and peaceful. Such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization. Brahma-bhuyaya kalpate. So such a person realizes all these qualities right from the 55th verse, 51st verse, 2nd, and here 3rd. All these qualities, if one manifests, then one is able to actually realize that I'm not this body, I'm spirit soul. So let's look at these qualities one by one. So freedom from all bad qualities based on bodily conception. So it is, when I think I'm this body, it manifests so many bad qualities. So what is required by him? One is he rejects false ego. So he rejects the conception that I'm this body. And he rejects false strength. So sometimes what happens is, based on our previous impressions, we may not have exact memory, but previous impressions from previous lifetimes, I may, derive, I may be driven in certain ways, based on the modes, I may be driven in certain ways. I may have a preference for a particular type of enjoyment. Some people, are attracted to drinking liquor, some are attracted to illicit sex, some are attracted to gambling. So the people have different impressions of the past, and they're driven by that. So he becomes free from them. And of course, when I don't identify with this body, then I have nothing to be proud of. I cannot be proud of my beauty. I know I'm not this body. I cannot be proud of all the education that I've gained in this body, because I'm not this body. So the wealth which I may possess, that also is not a source of pride. So we become completely free from pride as well. And then lust, we may have something and it is taken away from us, then we hanker after those enjoyable objects. So that lust, or something which I want and I don't have, this person is free from lust. Because here it was mentioned about that he does not have possessions. So when he does not see anything as his own, so if he loses that, then there's no question of anger. So even if his possessions are taken away, there is no anger that arises in this person. So he acceptance of material things and false proprietor. So he does not really see himself as a possessor. He understands that I am an insignificant spirit soul, and all of this is actually belonging to the Lord. So Lord is the real proprietor. So if you look at these qualities right from 51st to 53rd, this is the process of attaining and realizing I'm not this body, I'm spirit soul. And this process is the recommended process for a Gyan yogi.
Brahma-bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samah sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. So this is a very important verse. This is a memory verse. After doing all these things, so verse 51, 52, 53. In fact, starting way back when Krishna was talking about freedom from karma, from that 49th verse onwards, gradually there is a progression. And finally, after all these progression, he comes to this level. What is this level? One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the supreme Brahma and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. So here we are talking of a person who is completely devoid of all contaminations of the mode, be it goodness, passion, and ignorance. He is way above that. And he becomes purely joyful and peaceful in that state. So that is what was mentioned about trance. So he has attained that level where the material world no longer bothers him or disturbs him. Why? Because he is constantly absorbed. His mind is absorbed in the Supreme Lord. So at this stage, he is purely joyful and completely peaceful. So peaceful as in, like here it is mentioned, that he does not lament for anything. Why did it happen? Why did it happen? Or why did it not happen? So lamenting about the past, it is not there. And desire to have anything. He does not even desire ki, okay, in future I should attain that. So na shochati, na kankshati. Neither there is any lamentation, nor there is any desire. So neither he is worried about the past, nor he is concerned about or anxious about the future. And he is undisturbed. So he is equally disposed towards living entity. So either he gets honor or dishonor, all these things stop bothering him. So in that stage, finally now he is ready to perform pure devotional service. So at this particular stage is known as Brahma-bhuta stage, where the person is fully joyful because he understands his connection with the Supreme. He never laments or desires because he understands that everything in this material world is temporary, and he is equally disposed towards every living entity because he can see that every living entity in connection to the Supreme Lord. So then he attains to the pure devotional service.
So this is the progression of a Gyan yogi to a Bhakti yogi. At least he requires some devotion to the Lord to perfect his realization.
Pure devotional service includes Brahma-bhuta stage. So now we are talking about this gradual elevation. So Gyan yogi, gradually he is coming to Brahma realization, and then finally he is ready to perform bhakti. The other option, what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself has presented us, is that we directly perform bhakti. You don't have to go step by step, because here what progression we were studying, so that also involves living in a secluded place, staying away from the family, taking sannyas. So all that is not really needed. All this and a lot more can be attained by the process of pure devotional service, which should be coming up in the next section. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschashmi tatvatah tato mam tatvato gyatva vishate tad anantaram.
One can understand me as I am, as a Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me, by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. So this is an amazing verse. Now we see that, 51 to 53, the realization of that person was that I'm not this body, I'm spirit, soul. But if one has to realize the Supreme Lord, if one has to understand Krishna, then what is Krishna saying here? Bhaktya mam abhijanati. For to understand me, it is possible only through bhakti. Only by devotional service can I be known. So I cannot be known just by Gyan Yoga or by Karma Yoga or by Karma Kand. I cannot really be understood.
Or by taking sannyas or by leaving family.
Yes, that's an important point. So one cannot understand the Lord unless and otherwise he takes up devotional service. So this is Krishna himself is speaking this. So we should take a real cognizance of this verse. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Vishate tadanandaram. So he enters into the kingdom of God. So when I perform devotional service, two things happen. I can understand the Supreme Lord, and when I become fully Krishna conscious, then I can enter into the kingdom of God. Now, what may happen is that this word Vishate, sometimes the impersonalist, they translate it differently. They mean it differently. What they say is that then Vishate means that I become one with God. So the impersonalists give it a impersonal meaning, that when one performs bhakti, one becomes one with God or merges with God, but that is actually not the case. So here we see these are the two things. The we can hear that. So what is happening is the impersonalists give the example that the river, it is flowing. I'm sure some of you may have heard this. The river is flowing and it enters into the ocean. It merges with the ocean. So this is what the impersonalists think, that when I realize God, one second. Yeah. So I go and I merge with the ocean. But the devotees understand that we are like these small aquatics, no? The sound was coming. So we see this small aquatic, this fish. So the devotees are like those fishes in the river, and they go and enter into the large ocean, and then they can go up and go down and do whatever. Or the other example which is given is that there is a green bird and it enters a green tree. Does it become one with the tree? No, it enters and it enjoys the fruit of the tree. So when the bird enters the tree, it does not merge with the tree. So this is how the Vaishnava acharyas have explained it, in line with what Krishna wants us to understand. So the impersonalist Vishate translates as become one, and personalists understand that Krishna is saying they enter, such a devotee enters my abode, so that they can directly interact with God and directly serve the Supreme Lord.
So I hope we remember that what is the meaning of impersonalist? So impersonalist basically refers to those who do not believe in the personal form of the Lord. So they don't believe in personal form. They think that Lord is just some light. Right? So those people who do not have any conception of the personal form of the Lord or the personal features of the Lord, so they believe that Vishate means becoming one with God. Whereas the devotees believe that Vishate means entering into the kingdom and the pastimes of the Lord. So when we talk about the pastimes of the Lord, it is so beautiful, so divine. So when a person performs pure bhakti, and then he reaches to a level where he actually gets entry into the pastime of the Lord, where he actually establishes one of the four primary rasas or relationship with the Supreme Lord. So as we can see here, that there are different relationships. So either one can be Krishna's servant or parents or friends or lover. So any of these relationship or any of the pastime, a person gets entry through the process of Bhakti Yoga. And we must always remember, only way to know Krishna is by pure devotional service performed under the guidance of a pure devotee. So no speculation there that I think that this is good and I start doing certain things. It has to be done under the proper guidance of a bona fide parampara, a devotee who's coming in bona fide parampara. And moving to the next section from verse number 56 to 66, this is very, very important section. Here, actually, it is the conclusion of the whole Bhagavad Gita. I mean, Bhagavad Gita, I don't know how many times Krishna is concluding. So here is actually conclusion, because he is emphatically going to talk about the pure devotional service or pure bhakti.
Sarvakarmani api sada kurvano madvyapashrayah matprasadadavapnoti shashvatam padamavyayam. Though engaged in all kinds of activities, my pure devotee under my protection reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace. So here it is mentioned that Lord is talking about his pure devotee. He may be engaged in all kinds of activities. Now, again, we must not forget the context of this whole conversation. Um, Arjuna is standing on the battlefield. He has the biggest battle of his life in front of him, right? So, Krishna is referring that my devotees may be engaged in all kinds of activities. You are a Kshatriya. You now you have come to a point of fighting this war. A devotee who may be a Brahmana may be engaged in different kinds of activities. A devotee who's a Vaishya may be engaged in different kinds of activities. Or we have a devotee who's a Shudra. He may be engaged in serving somewhere, irrespective of what their activities are. Krishna is saying, my pure devotees under my protection. That mad vipashrayaha, they are always under my protection. They reach the eternal imperishable abode. How? By my grace. So this is what Lord is explaining. Mad vipashraya, under my protection. So Krishna is basically mentioning here is that I personally protect my devotee from all reaction. So whatever activity, like Arjuna is going to fight this war. In this war, he may kill his relatives, his grandfather, his gurus. He may kill, and if some reaction is to arise from that, Krishna is saying, I'll give you protection from that. So you don't really have to worry. So though engaged in all kinds of activities, always under my protection. So these, actually, if we see, even Arjuna or the Pandavas, they were always conscious of the Lord, irrespective of what they were doing. So whether they were in the Indraprastha, they were ruling. That time also, Yudhishthir Maharaj wanted to perform the Rajasuya Yagya, thinking that by performing the Rajasuya Yagya, Krishna will become so famous, because Krishna is the main personality. And by performing this yagya, everybody will come to know that Krishna is the supreme person, because in that yagya, Lord Shiva came, Brahmaji came, all the prominent devatas appeared, and in front of them, Krishna was recognized as a chief personality. So there, 24 hours, they are engaged in Krishna service and always under the protection. So protection comes by acting under the directions of the Supreme Lord or his representative. So till the time I follow the principles given by Krishna, till that time I am under his divine protection. So it's a very, very simple rule. If we are on the road and if we follow the traffic rules, we are under protection. I am driving on the right side of the road. When there is a red light, I stop. When there's a green light, I go. So I'm by following the rules, I am protected. Similarly, if I follow the rules, principles given in Bhagavad Gita, I am protected by the Lord. And because I'm always thinking of the Lord, I am not performing illicit activities, I am following the instructions of the Lord. So where will I go? I cannot remain in this material world, because this material world is an imperfect place or an unfit place for a devotee. So naturally, Lord will come, hold the hand and take us back to the spiritual. Of course, his representative, the spiritual master. So unchangeable, eternal, imperishable place which is full of knowledge. So this abode of the Lord, even if this entire universe is destroyed, the abode of the Lord is eternal. It is never destroyed. It is unlike this material, which has a creation, it has a maintenance, it has a destruction. So it is never destroyed.
There is no time limitation for a pure devotee. He is always 24 hours a day, 100% engaged in activities under the direction of the Supreme Lord. This is the definition of the devotee whom Krishna would always protect. So we have to reach at this level.
So how Arjuna can apply these instructions practically in his life? Let's look at the next verse. Chetasa sarva karmani mai sanyasya matparaha buddhi yogam upashritya matchitta satatam bhava.
In all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. So Krishna is telling how he can actually do this. So Krishna has been advocating Arjuna that he should fight. And then what he has to do apart from that, how can he perform pure devotional service, standing in the battlefield and killing people? So Krishna is telling that mentally offer all activities to me, Make me the only goal, depend on me, and you will be under my protection. So all the activities what you are performing, if my intelligence, my mind is fixed on Krishna, if I am remembering Krishna while doing my duties at other times, that way Krishna guarantees his complete protection. So in all activities, just depend on me, follow the bona fide instructions, and be fully conscious of me. So this is actually the mood of a servant, a devotee who understands the position of the Supreme Lord, and this is the humble position which he takes, that he acts under the direction of Supreme Lord. So whatever Krishna is telling in Bhagavad Gita, I do not become choosy. I do not pick up instructions that this one is good, I can do, and that one is not okay, I'll not do. Whatever Krishna says, Krishna is my master, and I completely agree to it. Then no individual independence. I don't want independence. My only dependence or my real independence is depending on the Supreme Lord and his instructions. And then such a devotee is also not governed by the profit and loss. Why he works not for the personal happiness or personal gain, but for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So this is how he discharges his duties faithfully, and this is how he completely depends on the Supreme Lord. I have been appointed to discharge this particular duty by Krishna. While acting in such a way, one naturally has to think of Krishna. This is perfect Krishna consciousness. So while doing anything, like while cooking, while cleaning, while working, while doing anything, if I remind myself that this is a particular duty I am doing for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord.
Macchitta sarva durgani matprasada tarishyasi atha chetvam ahankaran na shoshyasi vinakshyasi. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. So here Krishna is giving a warning to Arjuna. What is the Lord saying? So I've explained that how you can become conscious of me, and by becoming conscious of me, there will be no obstacle which you cannot get over. You will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. I'll give you that much of blessings and power and empowerment, no problem. But if you do not work in such consciousness, so we saw that in the beginning, Arjuna was not conscious of the Lord and not conscious of Lord's desire. Lord wanted this battle to happen. Lord wanted Arjuna to fight and decimate and kill the opponents and destroy the Kaurava army. This is what Krishna's desire was. And that's why Krishna said, what has come off for you? Second chapter, that you become important. You are Kshatriya, you are become an important. So Krishna clearly wanted this war to happen, but Arjuna was not willing to cooperate with Krishna's desire. So this is what exactly Krishna is saying, that if you do not work in such consciousness, if you disregard my desire, if you disregard my instructions and my guidance, then what will happen? You act through false ego. So you think you know so much, you think you are this body, you think all these relatives and friends which are in front of you, they are your friends and relatives. So you're thinking based on false ego, based on your body, not listening to me, not listening to the instruction that I'm giving you, you will be lost. So it's very, very simple. There are two aspects of life. If we work in Krishna consciousness, which means following the instructions of the spiritual master and of the Supreme Lord. Of course, spiritual master is a transparent via media from the Lord. So whatever Lord has told, spiritual master delivers that knowledge to us. So if I work keeping those principles as a center guiding principle of my life, then I will pass over all obstacles by Lord's and devotees' grace. If I don't do that, then I will be lost in this material world. So we see, after this whole conversation is over, Arjuna agrees and he fights this terrible battle. And in fact, the army of the Kaurava was much bigger than the Pandavas, and there were so many powerful warriors were there. Bhishma Dev, he was practically undefeatable. He had never been defeated. So he was such a powerful warrior standing against the Pandavas. So, I mean, logically speaking, there was no way that Pandavas actually can win. But Pandavas, the whole army, they got not only just over Bhishma, they got over Bhagadatta, another powerful king from Assam, then Jayadratha, and then Dronacharya. You know, they got over Dronacharya, they got over Karna, and even Duryodhan. So that is how they could, the Pandavas could actually win this, you know, almost an impossible war. Why? Because Lord was on their side and they agreed to follow the instructions of the Lord.
After knowing Bhagavad Gita, if we neglect the instructions, then we get lost in the maze of the material world. So we have been given this benediction. We have so in detail, in depth, we have got the message of Bhagavad Gita verse by verse, understanding that. So we must utilize this knowledge.
Unhesitatingly execute the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This will keep one safe under all circumstances. So always remember the example of traffic rules. If I follow the traffic rules, I'll be safe. Similarly, if I follow unhesitatingly the instructions of the Supreme Lord, I'll be safe under all circumstances.
Yad ahankaram ashritya na yotsya iti manyase mityaisha vyavasayaste prakritistvam niyokshati. If you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed. By your nature, you will have to be engaged in warfare. So Krishna, we saw that in the last session we were discussing that verse that Krishna is telling that do your duties even if you are doing it imperfectly, because that comes naturally to you. That is by your nature. So here Krishna, picking up from there, he is telling that Arjun, if you do not act, if you do not fight, then you are misguided. Because why you are misguided? Because begging is not your profession. You are a Kshatriya. You are not a Brahmana. So you don't think that by giving up this war and going for begging and becoming a sannyasi and it will suit you. I mean, that is your nature. That is your natural tendency, that to protect, to offer protection, to fight for the right cause. So that is what is there. And as of now, you are feeling about your relatives and friends and teachers and others, but that you are acting from your bodily level, and that is like a covering, like an ahankar ka covering which is coming up. So that is not real you. So you must act as per your nature. Svabhavajena kaunteya nibaddha swena karmana kartum nechasi yanmoha karishyasi avashopitat.
Under illusion, you are now declining to act according to my directions. But compelled by the work born of your own nature, you will act all the same, O son of Kunti. So here Krishna is not shying away from telling it directly on the face of Arjuna that you are actually, all your refusal to fight this war, you don't want to fight this war, so you are actually under illusion. There is nothing else. So under illusion, you don't want to fight, you don't want to follow my directions. But you understand, as Sugiti was explaining, and as in the previous verse, Krishna was telling that you are a Kshatriya, you will anyway fight. You cannot give up your nature. So you will act none the same. So one work as per his nature anyways. So if my innate nature is of a, of a Vaishya, or if it's of a Shudra, or if it is of a Brahmana, or if it is of Kshatriya, anyways, that nature will predominate my occupational duty. Whatever I'm doing, that nature will predominate. So I must not, that's what Krishna has been explaining here. So I should not just give that up whimsically. I don't like it now. It has become very troublesome. It has become very difficult. I will not do that. So that is not okay. So while doing whatever is, according to my guna and karma, according to my qualities and according to my activities, I should continue doing that. And at the same time, I should follow Krishna's order. So if you do not follow my orders, you'll follow orders of lower nature like puppets. So if I follow the instructions of the Lord, Krishna will extricate me from the modes of nature. And if I don't listen to Krishna, then I will continue to be dragged by the modes of nature. So I have two choices. Either I follow Krishna or I follow Maya. So that is why it is said that the jiva or the living entity is always dependent. Either we depend on the Lord or we depend on Maya Devi. Choice is
Maya Devi as in material modes.
material modes. Yeah, the choice is mine.
Ishvarah sarvabhutanam hrideshe arjun tishtati
Brahman sarvabhutani yantra rudhani mayaya.
Now Krishna is talking about yantra rudhani mayaya. So yantra, he is talking about a machine or a yantra. And what is that machine? Let's read. So Krishna says that Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart. Ishvarah sarva bhutanam hrideshe. So hriday mein, or in the heart of everyone, Supreme Lord is situated, O Arjun. And he is directing the wanderings of all living entities. So he is giving directions from within, who are seated as on a machine made of material energy. So actually we all have this machine. This body is like a machine which is made up of material energy. We all keep changing the body based on the desires what we have. We keep acquiring different bodies, and Super Soul is situated right there in the heart along with us, and he is witnessing the activities, and based on our desire he is giving the direction as how do I proceed.
So if Arjun does not want to follow Krishna's instruction, then what will happen is whenever he changes body, I mean, of course, Arjuna is an eternal devotee of the Lord, but I mean, that message is for all of us. So if for example, in this life, I hear Bhagavad Gita, but I don't regard it. You know, like Krishna is telling Bhagavad Gita, knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, similarly, he is giving this knowledge to us. So we have two options. Either we accept and follow that knowledge or we reject. So if I reject that knowledge, in this life or in next life, this nature, whatever my desires, Paramatma will remind me that you have this unfinished business, you completed. So I cannot actually escape.
So Supreme Lord is the master and director. Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart. He is directing us according to our past deeds. So what we have done in the past or what we have desired in the past. So accordingly, he gives us the direction. And the body is compared to a machine made of material energy. So material nature fashions a body so that one may work based on one's past desires.
How do animals know when and what to do, what they do?
Sometimes contradictory facts that cannot be accommodated begin to accumulate, and this may provoke a crisis. Then scientists may be forced to modify or change their paradigm.
The dance of the honeybee is a unique example of a complex communication system, because in this one dance, the honeybee communicates the distance and direction to a flower field to the members of its hive.
Instincts, I would say, are predisposed pathways in the nerve net in the brain.
Just newborns fly across from Alaska to Australia and New Zealand, a distance of 11,000 kilometers that these newborn birds cover in 8 days without stopping for food, rest, or water.
With evolutionary biologists, there is generally one explanation for anything that's inherited. The origin is considered to be just a random mutation.
How did the salmon know how to migrate back upstream against the river's current back to their freshwater birthplace after spending several years in the open sea in salt water?
I think another reason to suspect this idea that there can be selection for this and for this and for this separately It doesn't seem very plausible when you're talking about the complexity of the way of life of any kind of organism. This idea of adding piece by piece is in some sense logical, but in another sense it just doesn't feel right. An organism is not a machine. It doesn't have pieces that come apart and put back together again.
So why we showed you this, actually it's a promo of Nature's IQ film, where there are two scientists who have got together and they have explored the innate intelligence of animals, and which tends to baffle people who believe or who propose, or scientists who propose evolution. So why we showed you that was because in the previous verse we were talking about that how Lord is telling that one, the living entity is riding the machine of Maya, Yantra Rudhani Maya, and then the next verse Krishna says that it is the Paramatma who reminds them of their desires from the previous lives. So when there is a bird, it flies from Alaska all the way to Australia and New Zealand, which is 12,000 miles. They just are born, and when they can fly, they just fly directly there. So, I mean, from where does that...
They get the directions.
They get the direction, they get the intelligence, they know where to go. You know, so all that is actually is unexplained just by simple logic. So, because it had so much of... I mean, graphically explained that, so that's why we wanted to show you that promo.
तमेव शरणं
गच्छा सर्वभावेन भारत तत्प्रसादात् परां शान्तिं स्थानं प्राप्स्यसि शाश्वतम्.
O sign of Bharat, surrender unto him utterly. By his grace you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode. So Krishna in the previous verse was talking about the super soul as how Yantra Rudhani Maya, how he gives us the body and he travels along with us. Hrideshe Arjuna Tishtati, he is seated in the heart and he travels around with us. So now in this verse he is telling that surrender unto him utterly. So this him refers to the super soul. So he is telling Arjun, please surrender unto him. And if you surrender, then you will attain two things, transcendental peace and eternal abode. And when Krishna says surrender unto the supreme soul, he is actually referring to himself, because he has already told in I think in 15th chapter where he was talking about Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sannivishto, he was telling that I reside in everyone's heart. So Krishna is actually referring to himself and he's telling Arjun, you surrender unto me. And this way, when you surrender unto him or to Krishna, then you get transcendental peace. You get peace or freedom from all the miseries and perplexities of life, and you enter into the Supreme Lord's kingdom, like we saw in one of the verses, Vishate Tadanantaram, that we enter into the kingdom of God. Solution to the relief from all miseries and to achieve supreme abode. Surrender unto the Supreme Godhead situated in your heart. Iti te jnanam akyatam guhyat guhyataram maya vimrashyatadasheshana yatechasi tatha kuru. Thus I have explained to you knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do. So now Krishna is closing up, he is wrapping up, he is telling, I have given you all the needed information. In fact, I have given you Jnanam Akhitam Guhyad. He has given you the most confidential knowledge. He has given you very, very top confidential knowledge. And what we have to do now? Deliberate on this fully. So we have also given you all the knowledge, whatever we had from Bhagavad Gita. And now you all also deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do. So we have Krishna is giving us the knowledge and Krishna is giving us the free will to utilize that knowledge.
So sometimes I feel that, this is, sometimes people come back and say, why there are so many atheistic people, why there are so many people doing nonsense, why does not God force them to do? So here we see that Krishna is not even forcing Arjuna, who is his own devotee. He is not forcing his own devotee. Then where is the question to force any atheist?
So Krishna gives a choice, deliberate on this fully and do what you wish to do. So Krishna is telling, now I have given you everything what I am supposed to give you. I have given you the confidential knowledge. Now you think upon it and do whatever you want to do. So God does not interfere with the little independence of the living entity, and hence it is our responsibility to make informed decisions. So the decision part we have to handle carefully, because Krishna is leaving that responsibility on us. Krishna is giving the knowledge, and then he's not forcing us to, or he's not following up with us. He's telling, now you are capable, now you do what you want to do.
So with this, Krishna's instructions conclude. He's saying, now I told you what I would do, now I decide.
So actually, technically, Bhagavad Gita gets over here also, but then still there are some more verses. Still, we will see how Lord is even more merciful, that even after giving this verse, that deliberate upon it and do what you want to do, still Krishna will continue out of his affection for devotees. So how affectionate the Supreme Lord is and what he does, we will see in the next session. So thank you all for joining. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So if anyone has any...
Hare Rama